Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back at the Technical Forum here at the group exhibit Hydrogen, Fuel Cells and Batteries. I invite you all to come and have a seat, have a drink. There's a lovely lady walking around serving you with complimentary drinks. Also at this time, I would like to say hello, good afternoon, ni hao to all our online guests. We are live streaming from the fair. My name is Mona and I will go through the next presentation or the next discussion together with you. And for that, we will listen to efficient, compact, and cost-effective fuel cell air supplies by VAIREX. So please welcome with me on stage CEO Mr. Muir Milburn. Big hands, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Ski, you've been here before to the fair. You've been here for several years now. So how's the fair going so far for you?
Oh, let's see. Well, it's been a great fair for us. We love the Hanover Messe, but this year we have some special things. The first is, our President Obama came and was here on a Sunday night. That's, I think, the first time a U.S. president had ever come. And we want to thank him. We want to give him a special shout out for blocking off the entire east entrance of the fair on Monday, right? But that wasn't as good as the city of Hanover. We want to thank them for arranging a transit strike on Tuesday. And then we also have to thank Lufthansa for an airline strike on Wednesday. This is fabulous. We'll never forget you.
Yeah, so thank you to all of these who made our week so special. We know we've all been struggling, but we are all here, and the fair has been going, and today is a wonderful day. And so you mentioned the United States are the partner country this year. You came all the way from the United States, and you're representing VAIREX. So can you please give a brief company history of VAIREX?
Oh, sure. So VAIREX has actually been two companies. The first one I started in 1987, and we got in the fuel cell industry a few years after that. There was something that happened in 2009. I'm trying to forget it, but the net effect was we bought our assets back from the bankruptcy of a British company that had acquired us and started over. Today, we are a manufacturer of regenerative blowers for fuel cells in the 1 to 30 kilowatt category. We think we're the best. Some of our customers think so too.
Well, thank you for this honesty, and we will see that you're doing much better now. And so we need to know, what do you actually do? What is your product?
Okay, so I suppose everybody here knows what a fuel cell is. And we call them fuel cells. They run on fuel, but they also run on air. Every fuel cell, no matter the type, solid oxide, PEM, direct methanol, every fuel cell runs on air and fuel, or actually oxygen from the air and typically the hydrogen from the fuel. And the air supply controls the fuel cell. Just like when you push your foot on the gas pedal in a car, you don't actually put more gas in the car, you put more air in the engine, and then the fuel injection system notices that and adds more fuel. Fuel cells actually work pretty much the same way. You control the power output with the air system. So our air systems have variable speed and variable delivery, and they're very efficient, and they help our customers control their fuel cell by running the reaction at the correct rate, so you make the right amount of electricity.
So just to reiterate, it means that fuel cells don't run on full capacity, but that you can regulate the capacity that the fuel cell is running?
Actually, one of the great benefits of a fuel cell, if you do it right, is it can be extremely responsive to the load, right? And that gives you all sorts of possibilities, particularly in stationary power where the load is not necessarily constant. And so our air systems were designed from the very beginning. They were conceived and designed specifically to meet that requirement.
And so the blowers that you're building, do they work with particular types of fuel cells? Is it only PEM fuel cells, or also working with solid oxide fuel cells?
Yes, we're completely agnostic. We have no religion when it comes to fuel cell type. We're happy to work with everyone. We have solid oxide customers. We have PIM customers, both low temperature and high temperature. We actually work with several of the leading direct methanol people. We even have one customer who builds molten carbonate, although we make a small blower on a really big fuel cell.
So we would like to know, what is so special about your technology then?
Oh, there's nothing special about it. Well, 10 years ago, I've been in the fuel cell industry for a long time, and we were building some big, complex, very large, expensive, complex compressors. And they had 200 parts, and they cost 10,000 euros. And I'm looking at the fuel cell industry and the cost trends and the pressure trend, and I said, someday we're going to have to build a compressor for a fuel cell for 100 euros, not 10,000. And in order to do that, I need a really, really simple machine. And so we chose the side channel blower, called regenerative in the United States, originally invented in Germany in 1938. It's almost impossible for me to imagine how creative this man was that invented it. It's really remarkable the way it works. I almost can't describe it to you. But a regen blower is a fan. It's a propeller. It's just a thing with some blades on it. It looks simple. It's conceptually very, very simple. It's a plastic propeller on the end of a motor that spins around. But it makes 10 times the pressure of a typical regen blower, 100 times the pressure of a fan, which it resembles. And what we did was we looked at that, and I said to my chief engineer, Joel Oakman, who's in my booth while I do all this talking, that if we could double the pressure and the efficiency of a regen blower from the current state of the art, we would have a technology that would fit where fuel cells were going to be in 10 years. I'm happy to say we've done that, or actually Joel did. I take the credit. He did the work. And we've achieved that. We got a patent in the U.S. It's pending around the world. And so what we can do is we can produce twice the pressure at the same power of compressors that produce half the pressure.
And about what kind of kilowatt range are we talking here?
Our smallest one is for 1 kilowatt, which is stationary power in Japan and Korea. The biggest one is 30 kilowatts, which is an apartment building in Korea or a small bus in Europe, or things like that. So we think that 1 to 30 kilowatt is the kind of sweet spot for our technology and for the industry, because it's currently the largest market and of course the earliest to develop. Okay.
So what are your main markets, or let's say what are the main industries requesting the types of blowers that you make?
Well, our customers in the smallest ones, of course, are stationary power in Europe. In the mid-size ranges, we have quite a few customers in forklifts, with another large category, the leading category in the United States. The larger ones, we've been really pleased in the last year to see a really big surge in the 25, 30, 35 kilowatt scale. This is mostly buses, boats, apartment buildings. We currently we have a sales office in Tokyo. We ship to Asia, we ship to Europe, and we ship to North America. So we're currently selling, I think, in 17 countries and to about 50 customers.
And how long would that take from the day I order until the day you ship?
Well, we could ask the question, how long would it take from the day you order the first one until you're in production? For us, normally about a 4-month lead time on production orders. But of course, this is an industry that might take 7 years from when they buy the first blower to when we get that first production order, So it's a long, slow development cycle. We know that. We're built for that particular business. Okay?
That is very true. Ski, if it's okay, I would like to open the forum for question at this point in time.
Yeah.
You can all ask about the technical details.
And if you don't ask a good question, I'm going to keep talking, and you're going to be really sorry.
Okay, you can easily raise your hand. Just let me know if you have a question also while I'm talking, because I do have a question. So we all know that fuel cells have a lifetime. So is there also a lifetime limitation regarding the blowers?
Yes, and one of the reasons we chose the regenerative blower was our belief, because it has no friction, no rubbing parts. It basically just is a spinning motor, that it would reach the longest life. Our blowers are currently rated for 25,000 hours. We've recently completed some field trials where we've confirmed that in several different pretty rigorous field tests. We're also right now with a Japanese customer working and a Japanese bearing supplier working on a blower with a 100,000 hour life. 100,000 hours is 24/7 for roughly 12 years, 11 years and some months. I think we're going to get there. Might take a little while, but we're getting there. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so we know that we need blowers to let the fuel cell operate, and we want to make energy. However, in order to operate the blower itself, we need energy itself. So where does the energy come from?
Well, we're a parasite. The blower uses some of the power that a fuel cell makes to run it. And so it's very important that the blower be as efficient as possible so that the power consumption is as low as possible. Now, this is a complicated interaction because it also is a function of how much air and what the pressure, and so there's a lot of back and forth between us and our customers' engineering departments. But the goal is to get below 10% of the fuel cell output. Today, I would say most of our customers are operating at about 5%. So 5% of the output of the power is being consumed by the blower. Right.
Okay, and please let us know more about the most recent business development of VAIREX.
Well, I'm happy to say that there's a long sales cycle. You know, it's 5, 6, 7 years is common from when a customer buys the first blower to the first production order. We've in the last year seen 4 of our customers go from field trials to early low rate production. So we've gone from years ago we shipped blowers by the tens, last year by the hundreds, this year we'll ship by the thousands. Not next year, but the year after I hope to hit 10,000 blowers for the first time. So we're seeing a pretty substantial growth in the business. We're happy. We're actually making money, which is a little bit unusual in this industry. So it's a good time to be alive. Right?
So would you be able to supply more than the current demand?
Well, today, the way we're currently configured, we have 2 production lines that sit side by side in our facility in Colorado. If on a single shift operation, we can build 50,000 blowers a year. This year we'll do, a little less than 10% of that. If we had to run 2 shifts, we could get to 100,000. But we believe in a thing we call localization, which is as the business grows and there's sufficient volumes, our production system is specifically designed to be something that we can locate almost anywhere in the world at low cost. Our chief engineer, who I mentioned before, used to work for an automotive company. He built production lines in the United States, Germany, and Mexico. They operated from Colorado by remote control. And they got the same quality in all 3 locations. Well, the Germans, we had a little trouble teaching them, but in general, yes, the quality was the same.
So you think global and act locally?
Exactly. That's what we believe is the future of everything. It just happens to be the future of fuel cells. Right?
So in terms of the future of fuel cells, would you also be able to supply the large demand once it's there from let's say, the automotive industry?
Well, we're really not focused on the automobile industry. I have nothing against it, but unfortunately, the return on investment that auto industry suppliers make is about half our cost of capital when you're supported by private investors and venture capital and sources like that. So at the moment, we're not well configured to serve the automobile industry. The numbers don't work, right?
And what hurdles do you see in terms of hydrogen infrastructure? I know you're not focusing on that, but you have been in the field for several years, and I know you know a lot about this.
Yeah. I believe that if the fuel cell industry developed in the right way, the hydrogen infrastructure problem is a much smaller problem than it's generally made out to be. But it does mean you have to think about fleet vehicles more than every kind of vehicle. You have to think about range extenders more than other things. You have to think about cars that go pretty far between fill-ups as opposed to an ordinary gas station model. But hydrogen itself is not so hard to make. Hydrogen filling stations. One thing we see this year in the hydrogen fuel cell exhibit, there must be at least 6 or more companies selling it. If you want to buy a hydrogen filling station, 5 years ago you had to make one. Now you can just go buy one, right? I know it's expensive. I know it's a big hurdle. I know it's a long time. But I think sometimes it's an excuse for not actually just doing it, right? So.
And that is a very vital point. We are all here to discuss the present and not the future. So yes, you can go and buy your hydrogen fuel station now, even as a private investor. Well, in terms of the development of the hydrogen industry, what would be most beneficial for VAIREX?
More customers. Actually, we're pretty happy right now. We have 4 customers in production. They're ramping rapidly. We have about 12 more that we expect to go in production in the next year or 18 months. As an American company, one of the things we're challenged by is access to capital. Everybody thinks America has all these venture capitalists and money's really easy to get. But I heard about this really cool idea. I was in Italy, and I've never heard of such a thing, but it's really a great idea. In fact, we could use this in America. They call them banks. And what happens is people in the community take their money that they don't need that day and they put it in this building. And then these guys in that building, they loan this money out to local companies so they can grow. It's like, wow, what a fantastic idea. What we do is we have these buildings and they take money, the U.S. government prints money, it gives them to the banks, and they loan it to the government. And somehow the companies kind of don't need to be part of that picture. So I'm thinking we're going to need to invent banks. And banks would be a really terrific idea. And so I'm going to go back and call Obama up when I get home and tell him about it. I think he'll be really excited by the idea.
How paradox and how ironically. Okay, so we all know we need banks for the investment of hydrogen. What would you like to say if you're reviewing the last days of the hydrogen and fuel cell fair this year?
Well, it's been a great fair for us. We love the Hanover Messe. I've come here myself more than a dozen times. I think my company's exhibited 5 times. I lose track. This year and last year, 2 in a row. It's interesting. Every year it's a little different. Kind of feel the energy, whatever. But what I feel this year is
what type of energy?
Well, some years, a few years ago, there were lots and lots of talk, but not much buying. And this year it seems like there's maybe less talk and more action, and more serious discussion and less people beating their chests and telling you how great they are. So it feels to me like an industry that's actually starting to get real. You know, I'm one of those crazy entrepreneur Americans. This is my 6th startup. I've done 6 companies. One was sold for more than $1 billion. 2 went bankrupt. A couple are still in business. You know, I've seen every possible outcome. And this industry I was in the solar business once. I still participate as a board member on an industry association. The solar industry is real, right? It has been for a while. The wind energy is real. I was in the wind for a little while, has been for a while. I was in water filtration. That was my big win. And clean water got to a place where people cared. It was a real business. Fuel cells are starting to feel real. But here's what's not there. It's kind of maybe my last comment. But from the point of view of suppliers, the fuel cell industry is not yet a predictable business, right? And so what our customers want, you ask how long till you order, from order. What our customers want us to be, we can't be until our customers become something else. And what they need to be is predictable. And they're not unpredictable because they're bad people, they're great people, or because they're terrible planners, they'd like to plan. They're unpredictable because they have a complex product, a very complex supply chain. It's difficult to roll out on schedule. But I used to work in a business that had $1 billion in revenues, and our customers could predict for 3 years within a few percent what they were going to buy from us. And we could order steel and electronics and components way in advance of the purchase orders. And then when they gave us the purchase orders, we could fill the order, right? You can't do that as a supplier in the fuel cell industry. Our customers are not yet predictable enough. I think at the rate we're progressing, that's 2 or 3 years in the future. I hope no more. because it's hard for us and it's hard for our customers. Everyone's feeling their way, and it's difficult to schedule. And you buy 100 parts, and if one vendor's late, everything's late. That needs to change. But for that to change, the whole industry has to get more stable and more growth and more mature. And we're getting there, but it's not easy. Right?
So, unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I would like to summarize here that if you were a product, then your trademarks would be entrepreneurial experience, lots of experience. You are an expert also in the renewables. You are very entertaining. You know about how to make business, and you have a forward vision. So I'm very gladful that you were the last speaker here on stage. It was a pleasure to have you here. I see the audience is also entertained. I cannot take questions at this time from the audience, but what you can do is visit Ski at his booth. It's B32, and it's right straight just behind the technical forum. So once again, it was a pleasure to have you here. It was entertaining. It was very informative. So please give a big hand for Mr. Ski Muir Milburn.
And thanks for being here so late in the day.
Thank you. That was our last talk here in the public forum at the Hydrogen Fuel Cells and Batteries Fair at the Hanover Fair. Tomorrow we will continue and have some introduction on the hydrogen and on fuel cells, and that will be in German language. So morgen früh gibt es dann ein paar Informationen zur Wasserstoff-Brennstoffzelle. Vielen Dank. Good evening. Goodbye.